comedian uttered just 2 words at the 2025 Ryder Cup, and overnight, she lost her job, faced death threats, and became the global scapegoat for golf's ugliest weekend. While thousands hurled abuse at players unchecked, headlines declared Heather McMahan the ringleader. But the real story behind breaking, Heather McMahan breaks silence on Ryder Cup scandal, reveals a powder keg primed long before her mic slip. Was she a villain? Or the perfect fall woman for golf's mob mentality? The truth begins with a crowd already on the edge. Friday at Bethpage Black was a powder keg with a fuse already burning. From sunrise, the grandstand at the first tee heaved with 4,000 voices. Most of them male, most of them drinking, all of them ready for war. The air was thick with jeers, not cheers. Rory McIlroy, the face of Team Europe, became the target. Chants of "F you, Rory" rolled through the galleries before he'd even teed off, echoing from the first hole to the 11th. Fans screamed during his backswing, spat insults about his marriage, and hurled taunts about his home life. Shane Lowry, his playing partner, didn't escape either, mocked for his weight, jeered for every miss. It wasn't banter, it was venom disguised as patriotism. Security presence doubled, but with nearly 50,000 fans pressed against the ropes, chaos reigned. By midday, the grandstand had turned into a gladiator pit. Every birdie for Europe was drowned out by a wall of abuse. McIlroy tried to block it out, jaw set, eyes forward, but even he cracked. Flipping off the crowd at the 11th hole, a gesture caught by TV cameras and replayed on loop. The message was clear. This was no longer golf. It was tribal warfare, and the line between fan and antagonist had vanished. Before Heather McMahan ever picked up a microphone, the Ryder Cup was already spiraling out of control. Heather McMahan stepped into the first tee grandstand before dawn, her contract promising the glamour of celebrity interviews and the energy of a live broadcast. Instead, she faced a wall of 4,000 sleep-deprived, beer-fueled fans, many already roaring for blood. The sun hadn't risen, but the grandstand was packed, shoulder to shoulder, a living, breathing drumline. This wasn't the crowd of polite applause found at Augusta. This was a stadium primed for combat, and Heather was the lone official voice standing between order and outright chaos. Her resume read Netflix specials, sold-out theaters, and a reputation for quick wit. None of it prepared her for the job at Bethpage, controlling a mob at 5 a.m. with nothing but a microphone and a vague job description. Hype the crowd, keep it fun. The PGA of America had brought her in to inject energy, to be the spark, but the script was already lost. When she tried to start a DeChambeau chant, the crowd drowned her out in a storm of boos, rejecting even the most basic attempt at crowd work. The message was clear. This audience had no interest in being led, only in being unleashed. Sky News would later call the atmosphere the most abusive Ryder Cup in almost a century. In that crucible, Heather's role twisted from entertainer to unwitting lightning rod. Every word into the mic now carried the weight of 4,000 tempers. With the grandstand surging and the line between MC and scapegoat razor thin, the stage was set for a single, irreversible flashpoint. At 6:39 a.m., Heather McMahan's voice echoed through the first tee speakers, cracking the morning with a single, uncertain phrase. "F you, Rory?" The crowd, already primed for chaos, surged in response. A European player, face tight with disbelief, cut through the front row and confronted her on the spot. The mood flipped. What had been a carnival turned instantly sour. Heather's hand dropped from the mic. She signaled the producer, music up, her voice gone. For several minutes, the grandstand buzzed in confusion. But outside the ropes, the world was already watching. Within minutes, the clip exploded online. By breakfast, sports accounts on X and TikTok were looping the 5-second video. 3 million views before noon. Headlines multiplied, each one bigger and angrier than the last. Heather's name trended in 3 countries. She was no longer a comedian with a mic. She was the face of a scandal. The moment lasted seconds. The consequences already spiraling out of her control. Heather McMahan found Rory McIlroy in the players' area that afternoon and delivered a private apology face to face. The PGA brass reached out to Team Europe as well, hoping to calm the waters. But outside the ropes, things only got worse. A beer sailed from the crowd and struck Erica Stoll, Rory's wife, square on the hat. McIlroy, already frayed, spun toward the gallery and barked, "Shut the F up," as play broke down on the 16th. The grandstands, now a powder keg, forced the PGA to call in over 20 New York State police troopers with dogs. Uniforms lined the ropes, but the mob didn't care. Abuse kept raining down, slurs, threats, jeers, while security reports later confirmed only 2 fans were ejected all weekend. 4,000 voices could chant whatever they wanted. Only one woman lost her job. The line between fan and felon had vanished, and the official response was little more than optics. The real penalty was reserved for the face on every headline. Next came the battle for the narrative itself. Headlines did not hesitate. ESPN, comedian leads vulgar chant. Yahoo, MC steps down after leading chant. Fox News, BBC, and the Irish tabloids followed, each one sharpening the same blade. Heather McMahan, foul-mouthed, career-torched, the woman who ruined the Ryder Cup. Rich Beam, former major champion, piled on. "She's not a golfer. Whoever picked her missed the mark by a wide margin. That's unacceptable." The language was surgical, led, start, riled, ruined, branding her as both target and torchbearer. But 5 days later, Heather's own voice fired back. On her podcast, she dismantled the official story. "I did not start the chant. I said it once. I cannot control what 40,000 drunk men do." Her tone was incredulous. "You're telling me I have that much power?" She called her on-mic moment so foolish, but refused to play the villain. Is this the Salem witch hunt trials? The contrast was jarring. Headlines demanded a culprit. Heather pointed to the mob. The question was no longer what happened, but who gets to write the story. Europe's 15-13 victory barely registered beneath the roar of controversy. The headlines should have celebrated a historic comeback, but the only name on everyone's lips was Heather McMahan. While 2 fans were quietly escorted out, she became the public villain, her career in ashes, her inbox flooded with threats. The numbers don't lie. 40,000 men spent 3 days hurling abuse, yet only one woman paid the price. Luke Donald, Europe's captain, called the crowd's behavior over the line, citing personal insults and noise that shattered any illusion of sportsmanship. Keegan Bradley, leading the US, shrugged it off as passion, insisting that a few bad apples were inevitable. Neither captain spoke her name. Neither addressed the tidal wave of misogyny that followed. McMahan's apology, delivered privately to Rory and publicly through the PGA, was met with silence from those in charge and fury from the mob. No olive branch could reach across an ocean of outrage. She asked, "Is this the Salem witch hunt trials?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Europe hoisted the trophy, but the win was buried beneath scandal. In the end, only one person was held to account. The rest melted back into the crowd, untouched, unexamined, and unrepentant. At the 2025 Ryder Cup, only 2 fans were officially ejected for abusive behavior, while Heather McMahan lost her job after repeating a crowd chant once into a microphone. The footage, security reports, and media headlines show that McMahan became the face of a scandal rooted in a much wider culture of hostility and double standards. Despite thousands engaging in verbal abuse, documented by Sky News and on multiple viral videos, consequences fell almost solely on her, as confirmed by PGA statements and her own public apology. Questions remain. Why were systemic problems ignored? And would the response have been the same for a male MC? The event's legacy is not just Europe's 15-13 victory, but how one moment exposed deep rifts in golf's treatment of accountability and gender. The evidence is clear. The Ryder Cup found its scapegoat, but the real issues remain unresolved.